Welcome back to our channel. The corridors of power are rarely as transparent as we'd like, but sometimes the hidden strings get pulled so hard, the effects are plain for all to see. This is the story of how, against the backdrop of a brutal conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Kenya became arguably the first casualty of Rwanda's actions, and how, amidst the political machinations of the African Union, one nation's choices cost another dearly. The African Union Summit in Addis Ababa was poised to address critical issues facing the continent. High on the agenda was the escalating conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo, a conflict that has been simmering for decades, fueled by rich resources and complex geopolitical tensions. But even as leaders gathered to find solutions, a shadow war was being fought, a war of influence, for position, and ultimately for control. The summit's other key objective was electing the next chair of the African Union Commission. Three candidates emerged: Kenya's veteran politician Raila Odinga, who had crisscrossed the continent, passionately making his case, a candidate from Djibouti, and another from Madagascar. The stage was set for a hard-fought but seemingly straightforward election. But the conflict in Congo was about to throw a wrench into the works. Behind the scenes, the Southern African Development Community (SADC) initially pledged to support Raila Odinga. With 16 member states, their backing was a significant bloc. But just 2 days before the vote, a seismic shift occurred. Haunted by the unfolding crisis in Congo, SADC reversed course. They directed their member states to vote for the Madagascar candidate. The reason? Allegations of Rwandan interference in the conflict and Kenya's perceived inaction. One of the key blunders occurred when President William Ruto engaged with French President Emmanuel Macron on the Great Lakes conflict without broader African consultation, raising concerns about Kenya's unilateral approach. The perceived tilt toward Western powers, particularly France at this moment, and the United States, may have cost Kenya important votes. Another misstep was the recent abductions of foreign nationals in Nairobi that heightened security concerns, raising questions about Kenya's internal stability. Incidents involving Ugandan opposition leader KUZA and Tanzanian activist Maria Sarungi Tsehai may have damaged its regional image, potentially influencing the AUC vote.
One of the indications that I got was I was asked whether I have a husband. So I immediately knew that there was something that relating to my husband that they suddenly are interested. The other question that I got was, what do I do exactly? But every time I wouldn't answer, I would tell them that when you abducted me, what information do you have about me? And they really didn't like the word abduct. So they kept telling me, we did not abduct you. And I said, what you're doing is abduction.
In October 2023, at the height of the Israel-Hamas war, it seemed Kenya's position on the two-state solution was inconsistent with what others think or thought and act. President William Ruto condemned terrorism while leaving out the occupation issue. He later tried to address it during the Riyadh engagement with African heads of state and the Saudi government, showing pure inconsistency, which failed to inspire confidence in the northern region. Even on the day of elections for the African Union chairman, more than 100 officials from Kenya traveled with Odinga to Addis Ababa, a move some viewed as excessive and poorly coordinated. It gave the impression of a publicity stunt rather than focused diplomatic engagement. Back in Addis Ababa,
thank you.
The voting dragged on, round after round, with no clear winner. The Madagascar candidate eventually withdrew after the 6th round, but the Sadc member states rallied behind the Djibouti candidate, securing his victory. Raila Odinga's campaign, and with it, Kenya's ambition for leadership within the African Union, crumbled. Why? The answer lies in the perceived inaction of the Kenyan government, particularly President William Ruto, in addressing the escalating conflict in Congo. William Ruto, as chair of the East African Community, presided over a summit just weeks prior. Shockingly, the EAC issued no condemnation of Rwanda's actions, despite the fact that Congo and Rwanda were both members of the community. The EAC constitution clearly stipulates that aggression against a member state should be condemned and the victim supported. But the inaction goes deeper. Upon taking office 2 years ago, President Ruto abruptly withdrew 1,000 Kenyan troops stationed in Goma, in Congo. These troops were there for a crucial reason: to deter Ugandan and Rwandan forces from crossing the border to reinforce the M23 rebels, a group accused of destabilizing eastern Congo. The Kenyan presence was a deterrent, a buffer against further escalation. Kenyan forces had even established control over strategic territories bordering Rwanda, Rumangabo, Kibumba, and sections of Ruru. Their presence effectively presented large-scale incursions and maintained a fragile peace. Uganda, wary of a potential confrontation with Kenya, understood the implications of aggression. Eastern DRC is a region overflowing with natural wealth. Its minerals, tin, tungsten, tantalum, gold, have fueled conflict for over 3 decades. Various rebel groups have funded their operations through the illegal exploitation and trafficking of these resources. President Tshisekedi accused Rwanda of seeking to destabilize the region to plunder the very resources. Rwanda vehemently denied the claims. Yet history casts a long shadow. Rwanda twice sent troops into the DRC in the 1990s, citing the need to halt attacks by Hutu militias based there. This intervention spiraled into a regional conflict, drawing in armies from 7 African states. A UN panel of experts revealed in 2002 the grim reality. Criminals linked to the security forces of Uganda, Rwanda, Zimbabwe, and the DRC were all complicit in the exploitation of the country's mineral wealth. This is not just a political conflict, it's a resource war. Had Kenyan troops remained, the alleged 10,000 Rwandan troops seen massing at the border weeks ago may have hesitated. The consequences of crossing the line would have been far greater, but President Ruto made a choice. He sided with Paul Kagame, and now many believe he has faced the first consequence.
Because when you go to a contest, there can only be
two outcomes. You can win or you can lose. So this is one of them.
Reports suggest that Kenya's government has knowingly or unknowingly facilitated the transit of minerals smuggled from Congo through its territory. These minerals, originating near the Gatuna border between Rwanda and Uganda, are transported allegedly through Kenya on their way to the international market. Ruto's critics believe he chose the wrong side. This perceived alliance, they argue, is what prompted Sadc to teach him a lesson by denying Kenya the AU Commission chairmanship.
My plan now is I will go back home, and so many things to do back home.
Some observers believe William Ruto has already lost. As Kenyans prepare for the 2027 elections, the narrative has shifted against him. His association with Paul Kagame, many believe, has damaged his reputation both at home and on the continental stage.
This election, I want us to go back to the standing orders governing the election.
The story of Kenya's loss in Addis Ababa is a stark reminder in the complex world of international politics. Every action has consequences.
We stand together to call on all parties to actualize the ceasefire.
The human cost of the conflict in Congo continues to rise, and its repercussions are felt far beyond its borders. The alliance between Kenya and Rwanda, the withdrawal of Kenyan troops, many believe, will be felt for a long time. Newsroom, Bushabi Jr.